In this video, we're going to take a look at how to make translations, reflections, and rotations on a coordinate plane. So we're going to start just like how we've always been starting with the grid, major grid lines. Okay, now these are major grid lines because they're whole numbers, but we can add major and minors, which would give us like fractional parts and decimals. But for right now, we're starting with just major numbers, which are whole numbers. Okay, now we talked in class about reminding ourselves about the coordinate plane. We have our y-axis and our x-axis, and any point on the coordinate plane we can graph with 2 points. So I'm going to turn the graph on. So it says show axis. Click it, and now I have my y-axis running up and down. That's my y-axis, and I have my x-axis. Okay, so now I have a way to graph my shapes, which makes telling their location, where their location, a lot easier than a blank graph paper. So we can now give directions to our shapes. Okay, so let's make our triangle that we've been working with. So I'm going to start my triangle at point -7, +5. That means I'm going to go over to -7, that's my x, and up to 5. And then I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 like I've been doing, and then over 3, and then connect. Okay, so I just made a triangle that A is located at -7, +5, and I can label my point using the text tool, -7, 5. So that is my point A. And then I can label my point B, -7, 1. So I can go back down to the ABC tool, -7, 1. And then I can label C. Go back to ABC, click again. Oh, I already forgot. What is it? -4, 1. Okay. -4, 1. All right, so now I have a shape that is located in quadrant 2. This is quadrant 2. And I would like to reflect this shape over the y-axis. So remember in the reflection video, we talked about that you can have vertical reflections and you can have horizontal reflections. I would like to reflect my original triangle ABC over the y-axis into quadrant 1. Okay, now before I even use the tools, I can predict where this would go. I can predict it. So I'm just going to use my cursor tool to predict. So I can see here that if this is my line of reflection, the y-axis, I can see that C is 1, 2, 3, 4, -4. It's 4 away from the y-axis. So if I reflect it, it's going to be 4 away in the opposite direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's -4. That means C is going to be right across on the same y, but my x is going to be +4. So that's where my C would go. I'm making that prediction. I could do the same thing for A. I could go over here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm -7 on the 5y. So my y is 5, but my x is -7. If I reflect it, it's going to be the exact same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the opposite direction. Okay? All right, so let's see if I'm right. I'm going to go down here to my reflect about a line. My line is going to be my y-axis. So I click the reflect button. Which shape am I going to reflect? This one, the triangle. And then I'm going to click the y-axis. Just line it up, make sure you see the finger pointer. And there it is. Now I can go through here and just double check and see if my points are correct. -4, 1, 4, 1. So it's the opposite, so I can label it. So if somebody asked me if I reflected this shape across the y-axis, we would be able to give it points and say exactly where it would be located. All right, let's do B. 7, 1. Notice these are all positive because they're in quadrant 1. Okay. Notice our x's are all the opposite of these x's, and they're all positive because this is quadrant 1. So every point in here is a positive number. And notice the y-axis is not changing. The y points are not changing. That is because we reflected it over the y-axis. So when we reflect over the y-axis, it's the x's that are opposite, but the y would stay the same. Okay, now let me change the color just so we don't get confused. Let's change this to pink, red. Okay, now let's see what happens if I reflect this over the x-axis. Again, I'm going to make a prediction, and I see that this is just one above the x-axis. See that? It's only one above. So I'm going to predict that my b is going to be one below, and my c is going to be one below. But notice my a is way up here at 5. That means if I reflect this correctly, it should be down here at -5. All right, let's see if that works. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to pick reflect this shape over this line. And notice it did work out. That's awesome. Okay, so let's real quick just label our points. Just get into the habit of doing that. The copy, the reflection of B, B1 here, is going to be 7, -1. Oh, sorry, -7. Let me fix that. Oh, I guess I can't edit it. We will delete it. I'll fix it. All right, -7, -1. All right, let me get my move tool here. Delete that other one. Typo, delete. There we go. -7, -1. This one's going to be -4, -1. Let's go down here and use the text tool. -4, -1. This one is going to be -7, -5. So I'm going -7, -5. Okay. And notice with this reflection, put it back on the move tool. With this reflection, everything about the x's is staying the same, but the y's are changing. You see that? Okay? Because I reflected over the x-axis, my x's are staying the same, but my y's are changing, and they are the opposite. Let's change the color just so I can differentiate between the two. Okay? So we would call this a reflection over the x-axis. This one would be a reflection over the y-axis. Now, what if I wanted to do a reflection in this quadrant? I want to take my shape and I want to reflect it over diagonally. Now, in this case, I could reflect over 0, 0, which is a point. So if I go up here to my basic tools and I click point and just give this a point, point D, that's 0, 0. Okay, so now I can come down here, and instead of doing reflect about a line, because there's no line here, this is x-axis and y-axis, but this is a point, I can reflect about the point. So I click that reflect about a point, triangle, D. There it is. And notice that the reflection of the original shape over the point D is actually a reflection of our first reflection. So it's like reflect, 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 reflect. So it's kind of like we're just reflecting across the coordinate plane all the way from start to finish. And if you reflect this shape to this shape, this shape to this shape, this shape to this shape, and this shape back, you get back to where you started. Okay? Complete reflections. Pretty cool, right? All right. Now, let's see. What if I want to do a slide or a rotation? So maybe for this one, let's just do a slide of a point. So this time I'm just going to take a point. I'm just going to make a point. Let's pick a point. Let's go -3, 3. All right, there's my point. -3, 3. Let me go down here and label. All right, negative 3, 3. Okay, now, what if I want to move or translate this shape or this point from here to, let's say, up here? Okay, that would be over 4, up 6. I want to put it here. So let's go down to our tools and pick translate by vector. So I'm going to click the point, and then I'm going to drag it to where I want to go. Okay, so I want to go, what did I say? 4, 6. There. Boom. Oh. And there I did. I just moved my point. Okay, from point A to point B. What if I want to make a shape? Let's take this one out. And let's do a square this time. We'll do a square. If I want to move this square from this location to somewhere down here. All right, so let's go ahead and use our translate by vector. Click my shape, and I want to move my B, let's say, down to here. Boom. Now I've just translated my shape. Now, because it's a translation of a square, I have no way, it's hard to tell, is it a reflection or a rotation? Well, I know it's not a reflection because look, they don't match. This is 2 up and this is 1 down. And it's not a rotation because if I rotate this, then it's going to actually, look, I'm going to show you what a rotation would look like. Rotate this shape around this point. Let's do a 90-degree rotation clockwise. See, it just looks like I just copied it over. That's because it's a square. Squares are all equal sides. So that's why sometimes working with squares can be challenging because you don't know, is it a rotation? Is it a reflection? However, if I were to maybe make this an irregular shape, let's just make it like the one we did in the cool down. Okay. Now I can move it. Let's move this shape, translate this shape from here to here. That's a translation. So I moved B from a positive 2 to a negative 3, and it moved my whole shape down. Now, what if I want to rotate this shape? Let's rotate it. Okay, and let's see. Do we want to rotate? Let's rotate around the center of our graph. So let's put a point in the center of our graph. 0, 0. Let's rotate, go down to the bottom, rotate this shape around this point. Let's do a 180. Let's take it a 180-degree clockwise. Boom. So it went from here to here. All right, now let's do a reflection. All right, let's do a reflection around the y-axis, about the y-axis. So I'm going to click reflect this shape across the y-axis. Voila! So now on this one grid, I have shown a reflection across the y-axis. I've shown a 180-degree rotation clockwise, and I showed a translation of B. And I moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces south or down to the negative. Okay? All right, so we're going to keep working with this. I hope this video helps. This is actually really fun. You can come in here anytime you want and just play around with the tools. You can't hurt the website. Worst case scenario, you come up here and you hit refresh and it'll start your screen at a blank canvas.